Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all. Family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today we have Miss Wednesday Wood with us, and she is going to tell us who she is, what she's about, and I'm very excited to get to know her more on our interview since she is a soul sister with the lash industry and lash world, because that's where my passion was standing fully for a very long time. So Wednesday, please tell us who you are, what do you do, and anything you want to share as your intro.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me on here. First of all, I'm so honored, like you said, fellow Lash sister and fellow podcast host. So I do host a podcast as well. So it is so nice to be a guest for once. It's a whole different vibe. I love it. But yeah, so I've been an esthetician for, oh my goodness, almost 10 years. I am a salon owner. I am located just outside of Houston, Texas. And then I'm the director of education for a lash company called EBL Lashes, which is a lash product line that has been around for like 13 years. It's one of the OG lash companies. So I develop all of their education. I teach lash extensions. I still do lashes. I have a podcast, and then I also am a mom. So I'm just very busy.
So tell us more. How did you even get started in the industry?
So, okay, I started when I was 19 years old. I decided to move to Austin, Texas, which is about 3 hours from where I live. I moved to Austin with maybe like $200 to $300 to my name. I had no idea what I was doing. I dropped out of college. I was just going to like a college near my hometown, and I hated it. So I just decided to go to Austin, where like all my friends were going to school, and Austin's kind of known as like a party town in Texas. So I don't know, I just wanted to have fun. And then within like a week of living there, I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. So I went on Craigslist, and there was an opening for like a receptionist position at a waxing salon. So I got the job there. I was a receptionist. And then like the estheticians that worked there, the waxers, they were like telling me about the esthetician program that like they just had to go to school for like 6 months, and they were waxing. And like I saw how much money they made because I was the receptionist. And I was like, wait, I only have to go to school for 6 months and I can do this, because I hated school. Like I barely finished high school. I could not do college. I was like the student. I would literally leave school like so I could go pick up shifts at my restaurant job. Like I just hated being at school. I wanted to make money. I grew up like lower middle class. And so I was like, I just want to make a name for myself. I want to make money. I don't want to be in school. But then whenever I found out I only had to go to school for 6 months for the aesthetics program, I was like, oh my God, sign me up. So that's so easy. So I enrolled.
At the end of the tunnel, it's only 6 months.
Yeah, I was like, I can have a career before I'm even 20 years old. Like, why don't more people do this? Like, I didn't get it. I was like, why is everyone not doing this? So yeah, I went to school. I got my license like maybe like a month before I turned 20. And I already had a job because I was a receptionist at that place. So I did mostly waxing for a really long time. I ended up becoming, so I moved back home to Houston, and then I became like an educator for that wax company. I got to open some new stores like in different cities and like train their waxers and stuff like that. So it's funny because when I was going to community college in the beginning, I thought that I wanted to be a teacher. And then it's kind of like a full circle moment. Like I joined the beauty industry, and then like I ended up being a teacher. So lash extensions became really popular in like 2017 in my area, I would say. And I was working at the waxing salon, and people like clients would come in like with lash extensions, and I'm like, where'd you even get those done? Like how much do you pay for them? And whenever they were telling me how much they paid, I was like, oh, so I did some Google research. Turns out you have to have an esthetician license. I'm like, okay, I already have that. So I just took like a 1 day course, which like wasn't the best. I was just trying to find like the cheapest course and started doing lashes. I was like 21, 22 at this time. So like I didn't have a kid or anything. So I like took a leap of faith to just like start my own business with zero clientele. Like I had no lash clients, but like I did have waxing clients. So it's like I could, try to convince them to get lashes. I could tell them to tell their friends to get lashes. So I know it's harder like whenever you already have a child and you're trying to start a business, because it's like, okay, I need money. But like me, I was in my early 20s. I didn't care. I was like, I'll eat Taco Bell every day if I have to. Like I really don't care. So I guess I had a lot of trust in myself and started my own business, zero clientele. Within like a couple of months, I was like booked solid, like completely. So
Wow.
I guess because like I didn't really have a choice, I was like, have to get clients or else I'm going to fail. I don't really have anything to fall back on, but here we are. And then March 1st, 2020, I opened my own like salon. So I opened March 1st, 2020, and then had to close March 20th because of COVID. But
Great
here we
timing.
are. We're still standing. Yeah. We're still in business, so it's all good. But mostly now I just focus on like education. I take a little bit of clients here and there. Trying to raise a 4-year-old.
Yes, definitely the new age until 5 is the hardest from what I hear. I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old and another one on the way. So I'm still there with you trying to balance it all.
God bless your
So how has
soul.
the salon been since after COVID? Because I know the salon owners, we took a hit because a lot of people started doing stuff from home. We had no choice. We had to close and all that stuff. So how has it been post COVID? What have you been doing to kind of revamp and build the salon?
So honestly, 2020 was like the best year because everyone was so quick to get their lashes done. Like everyone wanted to come in and look good. Everyone was working on Zoom and, they still needed this part of themselves to look good. And I think everyone was just like really craving like human interaction. So I don't think it's funny. I think beauty services are suffering more now than they were like in 2020, 2021. I feel like we're just now starting to take like the hit of COVID. But honestly, I'm kind of going through a transition. So I did have employees and I just recently transitioned into just having renters because all the other duties that or not duties, but all the other like jobs, I guess you can say that I've been taking on. Like I do education for EBL, I do classes. I've also been helping, this is like so random, but I've been like randomly doing like branding and web design and graphic design for like other salons and other lash
Wow,
artists.
good for you.
Thank you. I feel like I'm just like all over the place. So since and I still take clients. So since I have so many roles and so many jobs, I decided to let go of managing employees because a lot of people think that like you can just be a lash artist and like take clients all day and like still have time to like hire employees and manage them, but that's like really not the case. Like you have to either get out of the chair or you have to hire someone to manage like your salon. And I didn't really want to do either of those things. So my best bet was to just switch everyone over to renters. And so that's kind of where I've been in the past couple months. And honestly, I feel like they're thriving. I feel like people, especially when like I'm their boss and I'm not there to motivate them as much as I should be, but I feel like whenever you're a renter, you're starting your own business, like that's their own little business, so they're more motivated to like work
I'm
and
more
build their books and
committed.
market. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different business model, and I think it's a great option. And I love that you said and you were real with yourself. You didn't want to just have like this salon of managing people, having employees, because sometimes people think that's what we have to do. If that's the route we took, we make more money that way versus somebody renting because you get a cut in the commission or the hourly or whatnot. But it's really not for everybody, and it didn't align with what vision you saw yourself now. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna let this go and I'm gonna find an easier solution where I don't have to manage and I can focus on the things that are serving you. So I think that's great to, it's a great place to be, even though you said you're kind of all over the place, but at the same time you made that like hard decision to open up your schedule to be able to focus on the things that you're enjoying.
100%.
Now, what is one thing that most people don't know about you? I know you said you also have a podcast, so I'm sure the people are getting to know you on there, but it's different when you're interviewing versus when you're being interviewed. So, what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Um, the first thing that comes to my head is that I actually, this is like so random too, but I grew up not eating meat. Like I was raised as a vegetarian. So I always tell people like whenever people if I'm like in a setting or like in a classroom setting or like at a new job or something and people are like, "Oh, go around and tell two truths and one lie." And like everyone has to guess the lie. And one of the things I always say that's true is like I've never had a cheeseburger before. And everyone always thinks that that's the lie, but it's true. I've never eaten I've never had like red meat before. I grew up not eating meat, but that's like something lighthearted that a lot of people don't know about me. If you want me to like go a little bit deeper,
Yes,
I don't know
tell
how
us
deep you
more.
want to get on here.
I like going deep because we're human, people connect with
Mhm.
us when we're
Yes.
fully transparent.
Something I don't think I've really like talked about on my podcast, I just feel like awkward talking about it for some reason, is that like the I grew up and this is probably why I have such like a hustle mentality, but I literally like grew up with nothing. Like my parents were like homeless whenever my mom got pregnant with me. Like my grandma ended up taking me in when I was like 4 years old, and I've lived with my grandma ever since I was four, and that's basically who raised me. I don't really have a relationship with my dad. And then my mom, I didn't really have a relationship with her really until like I had my son. And so I've had like a weird like upbringing and I never really felt like secure in any environment. So I think that's why I really just wanted to like move out when I was young and just like create like a stable life for myself. And then especially like when I had a kid, I was like, okay, I need to create like the most stable life possible for him. So I know we were talking about this before we started recording, but I just bought a house
Yay!
because my son.
Congrats!
Thank
That's
you.
such
But
a
yeah,
huge accomplishment.
thanks. Yeah, my son starts kindergarten next August. So I was like, okay, I need to like figure out what school district I want to be in. Like I want him to like grow up in
Gotta
a nice
get to the
area.
full adulting phase.
I know, I feel like such an adult. But yeah, something I don't really talk about on my podcast, mostly because I'm always like interviewing other people too. But yeah, something that I don't really talk about is that I had like a weird like childhood. I didn't have like a normal childhood. And so, but that probably brought me to where I am now. And it's like why I work so hard.
Yes, I think it's literally what makes us stronger. All the things that we go through and all the not mistakes, but all the things that we wish our parents did differently, we learn from it and we try to be better for the next generation. So I think it definitely shapes us. And the more people I talk to, the more I'm like, oh my God, having an abnormal childhood is almost more normal now. Like we all have childhood trauma, even like people that seem like they come from like perfectly happy families. So I think it's huge, like to even just admit that and accept that and be like, okay, well, what can I do better now, right? What can I do to not continue that trend with my kids or grandkids? Because sometimes we get stuck in generations if we're in a certain like living situation. So great for you to break that chain. Honestly, it's a huge, huge thing to be able to do that. You should be super proud.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of people, needed to hear. Whoever's listening, they needed to hear that you can change your own future and fortune. You don't have to be stuck in the same cycle because of your upbringing. And look at you. You already bought a house. You're providing for your kid. It's great. It's a huge accomplishment at such a young age. All right, so now we're going to talk about your biggest challenge. So you've had a lot of challenges, trying to shift gears. But in business, since we do also want to talk to our entrepreneur listeners, what has been the biggest challenge by far? And there's going to be a lot more that we're all going to always have to overcome. But by far, what has been your biggest challenge in being a salon owner and also having your own business and line of work, doing all these other things that you really enjoy?
Honestly, I would say my biggest challenge is just like realizing that what I have dreamt of doing for so long, like opening a salon, hiring employees, what I dreamt of for so long wasn't actually what I was happy doing. Like for so long, for years and years and years, I thought my goal had to be okay. And this is what a lot of people think too. Like people think that there are like certain steps you have to take in the beauty industry. Like okay, you work for a salon, then you go start booth renting, then you build your books until you're completely full, and then you go open your salon, and then you hire employees, and then you start teaching, and then you create a product line. Like people think that like you have to do the exact same steps that everyone else does. And so for years I thought that like my life goal was to open a salon and hire employees and like manage them and train them, and then they take over my clients. And then once I got to that point and I was actually doing it, I was like, wow, I actually don't enjoy doing this like at all. Like it was a huge wake up call,
It's
and I still did it
different.
for a really long time unhappily. And so it was really, really hard just like having a come to Jesus moment with myself and being like, you don't have to do this. Like, you really don't have to do this if this isn't something you enjoy. And I think everyone, I don't think it's bad to like try things. Like, obviously, if you're thinking about doing something for a really long time, like, definitely go for it and try it. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's like, you almost have to just jump into it because you don't know what you don't know. If I still hadn't taken that leap yet, I would still be working towards something that I would end up not enjoying. So I'm in hindsight, I'm glad that I just like went for it and did it. I had the salon. I mean, I still have a salon, but I had the salon with the employees and like that business model that like everyone thinks that they have to do. But I think anyone who's listening, like, don't be afraid to just like stop doing something if it's not serving you and it doesn't fit into your life. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yes, and I think that's really, really, really valuable. So I'm going to repeat it in my own words for our listeners. I did go through a lot of similar things that I had to like pivot and transition my business for it to fit myself. Because like you said, a lot of times we think that this is what we want because we see somebody else doing it, or we think that's what society wants us to do. Like that's the cookie cutter steps, even for an entrepreneur. But first of all, like you said, that's not for everyone. That's exact like guideline of going to school, building clientele, doing your booth rental, getting the salon, if this is the industry or in any industry that you're in. But the reality of it is, no, we need to create like what's right for us, because doing the art itself is so different compared to doing the business side of it. The business side of it is like a whole other animal, and it's not for everyone. And if at any point we feel like you said, something's not serving us, we need to be real with ourselves. Okay, this thing that I'm currently doing, this is what I usually do to kind of test myself. Like, okay, this thing that I'm doing or working on, if it's like something major or even something small, is it causing me more happiness or more stress? So at any point,
Mhm.
if it's like, oh no, it's definitely like zero happiness or very little happiness and it's mostly stress, that's when I know like I need to let go or at least transition out of it. So, so I'm glad you shared that, and that is a huge challenge. It sounds like easy to do. Yeah, you don't like it, like change it, but it's not. It's sometimes hard to give up on that dream, and especially you already work so hard, you invested money, you invested time. It's hard to like kind of say bye to your baby, you know. So good for you. I'm glad you're able to find a middle ground of course, not fully getting rid of your salon. You still have your business, but letting go of that vision that was kind of holding you back so you can move forward in other ways in your career.
Yes, and I did have to like what is it? Like I had to like swallow my pride and like because I had almost like transitioned completely out of the chair and I had like given all my clients to my employees and I really didn't have that many clients anymore. But I had to like swallow my pride and get back in the chair. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to go back to lashing. But I think it's funny because I I feel like lashes, we're like the only industry where people think that like there is a there's like an end cap on okay, like I have to stop doing lashes, like I have to retire doing lashes now. Like what's the next thing I have to do? Because I know so many hairstylists and so many estheticians that are like in their 40s and 50s and 60s and like they've been doing it for decades. So it's like how come like as lash artists we all are like in such a hurry to get out of the chair? That really like shouldn't be a thing in my opinion. Like most of us should like still be comfortable doing lashes. You can make a good living doing lashes.
Yes, I think in any artsy industry or in any industry, you know, like you said, this is the vision we have because we think that's what we need to do. But the reality of it is sometimes like that big entrepreneurial dream is really not all that it's cut out to be. You rather just do kind of your own thing and enjoy life going through it, you know, having you can still make really good money, like you said, just working for yourself and doing your own thing without all the headache of the business and the employees. So I'm glad you mentioned that because it is kind of something that light needs to be, you know, shined upon because a lot of people do have this unrealistic expectations, and then like you, for example, you get there and you're like, why am I not happy? Like you know, like this is what I've been trying to accomplish. So I'm glad we're talking about it because a lot of people could benefit from that. Instead of stressing to get to that point, they can really slow down and ask themselves, okay, am I enjoying what I'm doing now? And is there a way I can make more money doing it, for example, but still doing the art of it and being in the industry instead of trying to, you know, like you said, retire from it and do something else? But awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that too. Again, like I said, a lot of people like you feel like they have to, or they have like it's they're ashamed to go backwards. If you stop taking clients, then you have to take clients again. But honestly, like I personally had to kind of do that too, and I was in this industry for a very very long time. I graduated it like we went really high with the business, with the lashing business, but then after COVID, we were still doing really good. And then we did see a little dip. And this year, like you said, it has been kind of the worst. And it's not for only the lash industry. I think it's for every industry because people are
Every
kind of
industry.
scared to spend money now with all this media that I don't agree with. But
Mhm.
it is what it is, you know? And that's when, like, for me too, I was like, okay, let's bring back the services because we had fully stopped doing services in my company. We were just doing product line and education. And I was like, you know what? Let's have another avenue of revenue. So let's bring back the services. And I personally needed to like sit and take some clients myself and then build a team and all of that too. And we're still going through like that transition. So I think it's important to hear that, and we all have to swallow our pride at some point and own it, you know, and own it. It's okay to not be doing great at every single moment of our careers and our lives. Like if once we accept it, and it's almost like it's not so horrible anymore. Like I'm not any less because I'm going backwards. I'm taking a step back. Sometimes we need to slow down. And I personally had to slow down a lot in my ambition and everything, in my growth rate, in career when I became a mom, because, you know, that's a whole other focus too. I want to be a great present mom. I want to enjoy like all of those steps in my life, not only focus on just my business or my career or money, like physical, like luxury items, right? So, anyways, this is your interview, so let me jump right
No,
back
you're
on it.
fine. I completely agree with everything you just said.
All right, so let's go back to this deep question, but I don't want you to overthink it. I love asking my guests this, and it's, what does a fulfilling and happy life look for you right now?
Right now, it would just be so, like I told you, I've like kind of been doing like graphic design and web design for people. And honestly, I would love to just like work from home, like do everything that I could possibly do from home. Like I said, my son starts kindergarten next year, and it's like, how, and I'm a single mom. So I'm like, how am I gonna take clients and like take him to school and like pick him up from school, and then like is he going to be in sports, and it's like that doesn't really give me like a whole lot of time to like do what I'm doing right now. I feel like you said, once you become a mom, you have to kind of shift your life and shift I guess your definition of success. So for me, it would just be to like wake up in this house that I just spent all my money on and work from home, not have a storefront, can literally be at my child's beck and call. And funny enough, I was in the studio today doing lashes, and one of my first client was 15 minutes late. And you know, I do all the things. I'm rushing my son to get ready, get him to school. I'm like rushing to be there on time. And then it's like, when someone is just like that late without even giving me a heads up or like being sorry or anything like that, it just like puts everything into perspective. I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, I want to just like sit on my computer, work on my own time whenever I want. If I want to wake up at 4 a.m. and work, or if I want to stay up till midnight and work, like I'm in a place in my life where I just want to be on like no one's schedule but my own. Like, I want to like take on pick and choose what kind of projects I want to take on, work from home, and just, you know, still like have like my toes in the beauty industry, like still do education here and there and stuff. But honestly, I would love to just be out of the studio and
Yeah, and
not
it
not
sounds
have
like
a
you're on
schedule
the
of people.
Yes, and it really sounds like you're on the right path. And you just need like a little bit more time to figure out how to get there. And I think that's the first step we all need to like sit down and think about, is what we want, right? So right now that's what you want and that's what you need. You just need to figure out kind of like how to get there. But I think you just saying it out loud right now, it probably helped you. Like, oh yeah, that's ideally how I would want my schedule to be. And that's super important. Like if I was you, I would just write that down right now and be like, okay, this is
Mhm.
the goal, you know? And you can still on your salon maybe see if you can get one or two more renters, for
Yeah.
example. I always tell everybody, you know, we always have a lot more options than we think. It's just we get kind of stuck being limited. We just need to sit down and figure out like our options, you know. For me personally too, like I felt like when I became a mom, one kid was fine, and the two was, it kind of kicked my butt, like trying to balance everything with two. And that's when I finally came to the conclusion, is like I just got to figure out how to get more help. And for me it was a nanny, for me to be able to have like peace of mind that everything's being taken care of at home with the kids, but I'm also like having time to do the things that I need to do. So it's just like finding different options. And recently I was like, you know what, even if I had to kind of go in debt or get a loan or something, like that's
Mhm.
worth having some temporary options, because we're all going through different phases, right? So that's kind of what I want to share for the listeners too, and for you, hopefully, if it helps you out too. Like, we really need to think outside the box and see, okay, what other options do I have, right? Because we
Yes,
always
you
have
took the words
options.
right out of my mouth. Yes.
All right, so I love that. So that would be your ideal fulfilled life now, to be able to have super like flexible schedule where you're nobody's holding you back with the physical commitment, and you can work on your projects on your own time and be there for your kid when you need to. I love that. That sounds great.
Thanks.
So, but until you get to that point, since you are still managing a lot, what does a typical day in your life look like for anybody that's wondering? How are you balancing all of the things that you're doing?
Oh my God, that's such a good question.
I'm sure there's
So,
no typical day.
a typical day. So, usually my son wakes up at like 5 a.m., gets in my bed, plays his Nintendo at full blast by my head. So, that's how I wake up every single
That's your
morning.
alarm clock.
Yes. But yeah, so normally in the mornings it's just like couple hours at my house, like getting things ready, trying to get my son ready for school, arguing with him over what he needs to eat for breakfast because he wants to eat chips for breakfast every morning. So my days start out like extremely chaotic, and like believe it or not, going to work is like the least stressful part of my day. That's like my escape. But yeah, I'll either go to the salon and take clients, or sometimes on the days I don't have clients, I work from home on the computer, like doing graphic design or education, whatever it is that I am doing. My days are like seriously all over the place. Like I don't think like today, for example, I had clients this morning, and then I have this podcast, and I'm sitting in my house that I just bought that's completely empty doing this podcast, but this house is closer to my salon than my current house is that I'm living in. So I just like jetted over here from my salon, and then I'll go get my kid and then go back to my normal house, like my actual house that I still live in right now. Yeah, my life is so chaotic, but most of the time I work until about 4 p.m., go get my son, do dinner, and I like try to find time to like work out, like get on the Peloton, and then I am out asleep by like 9 or 10 p.m. and then wake up
Well, you're
and
up
do it
at
all
5.
over
I
again.
think that's fair.
Yes, absolutely. I would say I try to keep my working hours, like no matter what I'm doing, in between like 9 and 4, and then and this is something I've been struggling with actually, is like finding time for social media. That's probably something I need to hire out at this point in my life, because whenever I get home, like my son has my undivided attention, and I just like do not have the time and energy to think of what to post on social media, and it is
Oh,
like
I feel you on
killing.
that. I totally feel you on that. But yeah, getting help.
Do you have a social media person?
I do. So a few people actually just wear many hats and we just kind of help each other out in that department. I did have like more of a dedicated person just for social media, but like I said, we downsized a little bit earlier this year. So now we're just kind of all helping out in that department. But to be honest, me personally, even on my personal social media, I was like, you know what, it's important, but it's not that important, and it's not end of the world. Like I've been at this piece. um um I feel like I went through kind of a harder transition when my second kid was born. And then when I found that I was pregnant again too, it was like, oh my God, now I'm going to go through another like roller coaster of trying to balance life again with the third kid. But I love kids and I always wanted to have 4 kids. So this is all part of my grand plan. I'm sure everything will fall in its place. But I finally, like, I did a lot of self work again and finally came to terms that everything's going to be okay. Like, why am I worrying? Let's just not live in like fear and worry of what's going to happen. I'm just going to do what I can. And if it's less, like financially, business is slower or whatever it is, like if it's less for now, and that's okay. I'm still like have so much to be grateful for, right? And of course, like I said, like I was like big on if I have to go into a little debt or if I have to get loans, like I know myself, I know it's gonna be fine in the long run. So let me not stress. And I think the point that I took that stress out of the picture, everything started growing and being even better, and it started working out more, like business and financial wise too. But I lost my train of thought. What did you say? Oh, for the social media. Yeah. So that,
Yeah.
like, I was like, I'm just gonna let go. I'm gonna let it go. Like, I'm not gonna spend. I barely spend any time on social media. I look present there because I still like to record and put the content out there that's helpful for my community. But personally, like, I barely spend time on there, and like, I kind of disappeared from my personal social medias too for a while. And I was like, you know what? That's okay. Like, nobody really cares that much, and social media helps business, but at the same time, like initially my salon was thriving with like 300 followers, like not really a big social media presence. So I like to remind people, yeah, social media is great, but we don't have to stress so much to like be like famous. I don't know, people like try so hard to be big on social media, but half the time that's just like 10%, maybe the most of your business. Everything else plays like as much of a role. And it's okay to sometimes be like, okay, I don't have the time to do this right now. I'm going to take a break and then find ways like you said, either outsource or when you're ready, you can go back into it. So that's kind of where I'm at personally with it. And recently I was like, oh, I'm kind of ready to get back into it. So I committed to being more active on the Yegi project TikTok. So
Mhm.
I decided to just pick like one, since there's so many platforms. I'm like, I'm just going to pick one to be personally like active and like try to connect with my audience for now and see how that goes. Then I can add more to it if I'm enjoying it. But the reality of it is it's very time consuming, and my focus was somewhere else for like a year, and it's okay. It was all still okay.
Thank you for
So
sharing
yeah.
that. That actually makes me feel a lot better. I really like that you said
Okay.
that.
Okay, good. Yeah, and it's so overrated, and there's so much content out there right now. We all
Mhm.
stress so much to try to keep up, to try to like compete, not even compete, but just try to have a presence, or we think like we have to, but we really don't have to. Like a lot of people really like don't even care. Like we put the stress on ourselves for no reason. Just we do your best, you know. If it's one post a month, great. If it's like two posts a month, great. If nothing, great. Like you just focus on what's important to you.
I love it.
All right, so let's talk about your pricing point, because I don't know if you realize, but you do charge a little differently for eyelash extensions than like the general norm. And again,
Mhm.
for the business side of things, I'm curious how that came about, and how it's been working for you and how you value your time. So for our listeners who are not familiar with the lash industry, so normally people charge based on the service. So if it's like a certain look for the extension, or if it's like a fill or a touch up when they come to maintain. So it's like usually two set prices. But I've noticed you charge based on the amount of time or work or effort you're going to put into that client. And I actually love that. I think it's super fair to do it that way. But tell me more, like how has that worked for you, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so I think there are so many reasons. So the first thing that like came up why I started doing that was because so there are so many different styles for lashes, like classic, hybrid, volume, mega volume, and now there's like the wet set, and there's just like so many different names for lashes, and like I don't feel like they're universally the same from lash artist to lash artist. So if like someone used to go somewhere else and like maybe they like booked like volume, and then they come to me and book volume, and my volume is like a lot fuller, like maybe I use a different diameter, like I use lashes that are darker, I don't know, but it's like I was realizing that people like aren't the average person that like isn't a lash artist or isn't in the lash industry, like they don't know all of this different terminology. So not only that does it differ like from lash artist to lash artist, and like you may or may not get like the same volume full set depending on where you go. But also it can be just like confusing for clients whenever they're going to your booking site and they don't know anything about lashes and they're like, okay, like I want them natural, like maybe I should just book classic, but like I want them to be a little noticeable, so maybe I should book hybrid, like I don't know. So they book classic or hybrid and then they come in and they really don't have that many lashes, and I'm like, honestly, like you need volume even if you do want them natural. Since you don't have that many lashes, you're still gonna need volume, like in order for it to look like you have anything on. So it's like there's just too much like mumbo jumbo, and like I just feel like lash extensions are not like a one size fits all, and my mind is like very chaotic. Like I don't know. I feel like I have like ADHD. I'm not like diagnosed. I don't want to like say that I do, but it's like I have like the same like tendency. My mind is just all over the place. And so for me personally, to look at my schedule, like if everything is just the same, like everyone's paying the same amount no matter what, because I can pretty much do everything in the same amount of time. I've been doing this for so long. If someone wants natural, I can do, it's going to take me the same amount of time if they want dramatic. So I don't think I should be getting paid less just because someone wants something more natural. If everything's taking me the same amount of time, it's easier for clients whenever they're booking. They're like, oh, let me just book an hour fill. Like I feel like me as the lash artist, and this goes for anyone, I feel like we as the professionals, we should be telling clients what they need, like depending on what they want. So I just use this example. If someone doesn't have that many natural lashes, even if they still want a natural look, like I'm gonna need to do volume on them. Like I'm not doing classic on like an old lady that has like 20 natural lashes on each eye. Like that's just not gonna look good, and I don't want to do that. And then if someone does have a lot of lashes and they want something really dramatic, like I don't need, they could almost get away with just like a hybrid or light volume because they have so many lashes. I feel like we as the lash artists should be telling clients like, oh, you want this look? Like, okay, this is what you need. This is the map like I'm going to do on you based on your eye shape. This is, and honestly, clients don't need to know what all of this means. Clients don't really need to know the
Yeah,
difference
they don't
between
care.
plastic and volume. They don't need to know the different curls. They don't need to know what lengths you're using on that. Like, this is going to be very confusing for them. Like me, I get filler and Botox, whatever. Like I have no idea what a unit of Botox is. I don't know what that means. Like I don't know.
Just
I don't
make
know
me
what
look
anything
pretty.
means. Yeah, I'm like, I want to go to my injector and I want to say, okay, I want to look like this. Like you tell me what I need. Like I don't want to do all this research. If someone does want to do a lot of research, like that's fine. You do you. But it's like I'm busy. I don't want to do research. I just know I want my lips to look big and I don't want lines in my forehead and I don't want lines by my eyes. So do what you need to do. I'm not like telling you what I need. And I feel like that
Oh,
needs to
I
go
love
for
that.
lash artists as well. Like you as the professional, like present yourself as a professional and tell the client what they need and what's going to look best on them. So anyways, that was like a very long explanation, but
No, that
there
was
are so
perfect.
many reasons.
Thank you so much. That's honestly perfect. And it just opens up the doors for a lot of people as an option, because like I said, I don't see it normally. And I think it's a really good option to simplify things for the clients and very like align your schedule for your time, so you know how much time you're going to spend on a certain client. Doesn't matter what lashes you're going to use, for example. So I think it's a really cool way of pricing, and I think a lot of people would benefit of having that option to keep things super like simple for the client. I think in a business model, the more simple we can keep things for clients, the more likely that they are to book. So for them, like you said, if all they need to know is they want lashes, they need a fill or a full set, like just however long they want, just book it and then I'll give you what you need. You don't need to pick 10 different options. All right, awesome. Let's talk about your podcast. So you briefly mentioned, but I do want to mention the name. Officially, it's called the Wicked Biz Experience, right?
Mhm. The
So
Wicked
let's
Biz podcast.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about the Wicked Biz podcast. So, what is that about? How did that come about? And why are you doing the podcast in the first place?
Yeah, okay, so my podcast is the Wicked Biz podcast, but I have an event called the Wicked Biz Experience that I have here in Houston.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so tell us about both.
Okay, so the Wicked Biz podcast, I started it because I started it January 2021, I believe, and I just wanted a platform that was like off social media that I could just like share my thoughts and like have my favorite people on. And like, I just love listening to podcasts. I have learned so much about business from podcasts. Like, I kind of like don't even really listen to music in my car anymore. I'm like only listening to podcasts. I mean, who doesn't want to consume like free information about how to better their business? So I figured I would just give back and share like everything I've learned in business and along the way. And it actually used to be called the Wicked Lash podcast, but I was kind of tired about talking about lashes all the time. So I changed it to the Wicked Biz podcast. And now we have a bunch of other topics as well. And then I just added a co host, and our first episode is about to be out, our first episode that we have together. So it's one of my really good friends who has also been in the industry for as long as me. We actually met at the wax salon that I used to work at a long time ago. She's one of my renters at my salon, and I just love the vibes of like having a co-host in person. It's so much fun. And yeah, it's been really well. It's been almost 2 years, and I just love like giving back to my community, I guess you could say, and just like share information that people can listen to in the car on the way to work. And it's so great like going when I go to events like LashCon, for example, and people come up to me and they're like, yeah, like I listen to your podcast, like I feel like we're best friends. And I'm like, oh my God, I just love that so much. It's just such a great way to reach more people, because not everyone just wants to like scroll on social media, but like consuming content by like listening to it in your car on the way to work or whatever it is that you're doing. It's just a better way to reach more people. And then, so this past August, a few months ago, I did an event, the Wicked Business Experience. It was just, I had like 50 guests. It was just, basically like a mini conference. I wanted it to be just really intimate. I had it here in Houston. I had 8 speakers. So I just had 8 speakers giving presentations about different ways basically to grow your business, like strengthening your branding. I had a lawyer talking about like the legal side of your business. I had, what else? I'm like blacking out. I don't even remember. I had
That's
someone talking about like
awesome.
client communication and policies. I had people talking about like hiring a team. And it was just a really good event for people to not only, my guests not only got to listen to these speakers and take things to apply to their business, but it was also like a great networking opportunity, like for other people to connect. And then also I had a photographer there doing like a free headshot for everyone, so people could have a headshot they could use in their business. And it was a really good event. This was my first one, and I plan to do it again next August here in Houston. It'll just be like a little thing. Maybe it'll even be bigger this year. But yeah, I had 50 guests
Yes.
this year and hoping for like maybe 100 guests next year. That would be amazing.
Yeah, well, all my best to you. I think that is great. It's hosting an event like that, especially for the first time, is kind of scary because you don't know the turnout. And I've been through
Mhm.
that myself. So it's very rewarding. 50 guests is great, like amazing place to start, because these are serious
Mhm.
people who are coming to work on themselves. And for them to have a home to go to an event like that, it shows a lot. So I'm sure they got so much and they're so grateful for you. So congratulations on that. I think physical networking event is hard to
Mhm.
plan and hard to manage, and it takes like a really strong person to just go for it, especially for the first time. So I hope you keep up with it, and I hope to hopefully one day participate in it and see it
Mhm.
in real life. So
Yes.
congrats on that.
Thanks.
What was the scariest part with doing that? Because I know now more people are more comfortable behind the camera, like virtual, and a lot of people do virtual events. What was the scary part about planning an event that was going to be human facing?
Yeah, it was really nervous just because like I really didn't like practice anything. I didn't like practice the lineup, like all of us going through our speeches. And then like I also had like breakfast and lunch served too. So it was just really scary, like hoping that everything went well. We did end up running like 30 minutes behind schedule just because like people's speeches running over, which wasn't that bad. But I would say that was the scariest thing, like the day of, just making sure everything like went smooth and that we stayed on time. But like leading up to it, the scary part was just like, am I gonna sell enough tickets like to even be able to afford this? Because I mean, I think what a lot of people don't realize is like how much money goes into these things, and I didn't even realize it at first. So people think like, because my tickets were $600, so people think like, oh my god, $600 and 50 guests. Like I already know people are doing the math in their head listening to this, like, oh my god, that's so much. And it's like, no, like that it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars to put on an event like this. So it's like now I know for next year like what stuff I don't need to spend money on, and like how to like cut back on like certain pricing or for certain things and stuff like that. But it was just scary, like, okay, hopefully I like sell enough tickets. But I did,
To
everything
at
was
least like break even, right? Because even the
fine.
food alone, like being committed to providing food alone costs a lot of money. So it is
Hmm.
very scary to make sure you're at least gonna break even. But it's, like I
Yes.
said, great for you. Like it is scary and taking that leap of faith. And I think that's kind of like the hardest thing to do is not knowing, because you can't control the outcome, but still like having faith and investing into an event like that. So great, 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 great advice. Now, if you were, or what was your biggest lesson you learned throwing an event? What was the biggest thing that was like, oh, I had no idea? But besides the cost, we kind of talked
Right.
about that.
I think the biggest thing was like how long, okay, first of all, how many like moving parts there are, and also like how long things take. So I did a lot of stuff last minute, like as far as like finding a backdrop, like for people to take pictures with. And like I wanted a backdrop like behind the speakers. Like I didn't start looking into, like backdrop people. You know what I'm talking about? Like the wooden like backdrops that people have at like baby showers
Yes,
and stuff like that.
almost
And
like
like
a
the
photo
balloons.
booth area.
Yeah, so I wanted that, and I don't think I started like actually like reaching out to people until like 6 weeks prior. Like I didn't think that like people would be booked out that far. I don't know. For some reason, that was just me
So
like
you
being ignorant.
underestimated the time it takes to do things. I think that's
Yes,
very common. So
literally,
give
yes.
yourself more cushion room.
Yes,
Is that
and
what you would say to give?
I ended up using a company that like I didn't really like. And obviously it's like it's kind of like with lash extensions. Like I always think like when I see people posting on Facebook like who can get me in for lash extensions today, and I'm looking at that and I'm like whoever can get you in today like probably is going to do that good of a job. I know there are like exceptions to the rule, like if a really good person had like a cancellation or something like that. But the same goes for like backdrops apparently. It's like okay, I waited till the last minute to find a backdrop company and it like wasn't the best. And so yeah, I just didn't realize like how long things take. I'm like, okay, I can't like slack on these sort of things. And then one thing, this is one tip I will give someone that like wants to do an event like this is I didn't have it like in a walkable area. So I didn't realize that so many people were going to be coming from different states, which I love that. People like traveled for this. I just thought, oh, maybe people in Houston will come, but no, like people were coming from different states. So a lot of people came that like didn't have a car, and it's like it was in Houston, but there wasn't like really like restaurants or bars or things that you could like walk to. So that's something that I need to take into consideration. Like I need to have it somewhere where it's like people can walk places and like don't have to Uber everywhere.
Yeah, for the convenience of location. Well, that's great. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. We are running short on time. I still have so many great questions for you. You've been so awesome to be so transparent and real. And I know a lot of listeners would appreciate that because sometimes, when they see somebody who's successful, like we all assume, oh, they have everything figured out. But sometimes it's nice to hear that, no, we're all always figuring things out. There's always like the next chapter. And I love that you're so honest and transparent with that. And we did talk about social media a little bit. And like I said, like I've come to terms that it's not everything and it's okay to slack off if that's what I personally need to do. But I do want to ask you, because you said like now it's a little hard for you to be super present, but your social media looks great, right? Yes, you have put in good effort, and I think you have a good community there. Just for other people who want to learn from your experience and how you've managed that and the importance you've seen in social media, can you share your experience and your kind of like techniques on it?
Yeah, so I would say like the biggest thing is that I know a lot of people like scroll through social media just like mindlessly, but any type of content I am consuming, whether it's on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, no matter what industry it's from, no matter who's posting it, I'm always thinking, how can I relate this back to my business? Like even if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I mean I follow like on my like personal account that like only my friends follow. I follow just like a whole bunch of different businesses and influencers and stuff like that, and like people that I watch on my Peloton app and just stuff like that. And anytime I see like a piece of content or like a way that they're marketing or like something that they created, I'm just like, okay, how can I relate this back to the lash industry? So I feel like I don't really just scroll like mindlessly on social media in my spare time, but I'm always thinking like, okay, how can I make create this, like take inspiration from this and turn it into a piece of content for my business? Like if I do see that it's something that's performing well. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. And I think that's just having the entrepreneur mind. So I
Hmm.
think once you have that mind where you're always looking for opportunities, I feel like I do that too with anything, like even applying it to business, not only social media. I'm always thinking, how can I apply this to my
Hmm.
business to make it better? Right. So I love that. I love that, honestly, because we can spend an hour just scrolling for our joy or for just, we do that just to relax. But we can also just kind of turn that switch on and be like, okay, I'm not only going to mindlessly scroll, but I'm going to keep
Yes.
in mind if something stands out to me, I'm going to think, okay, how can I like make this my own or get inspiration from it to create similar content? So instead of fully recreating the wheel or trying to come up with cajillion ideas in such a saturated market, you're not like putting in so much effort to come up with content. But when organically, when you're looking, you like something, and that's kind of what I do too. I'll write down ideas on like my notes or something, or even screenshot something and save it in a folder in my phone. So when it is time to create content, I'm not just trying to come up with everything on my own, because the reality of it is we don't need to recreate the wheel. If we see something we like or that's doing well, we can get inspiration from it. We don't have to copy it to the T, but it's nice to have that as inspiration.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing that, honestly. I know we are out of time, so I'm going to ask you my last favorite question. I don't think I asked you yet, right? So, if there was one thing you can change in the world, what would it be without overthinking it? Obviously, we want everybody to be happy and for there to be world peace. But if there is one thing you can change, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Does it have to be like related to the lash industry or just
No,
like
no, not
anything?
at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Mm, okay, I am overthinking it. Oh my god, I'm such an overthinker. I think something I would change in the world and like something that I would like to change for myself too is just like and this is gonna sound kind of cheesy, but just like everyone over analyzing what other people are going to think of them. I feel like a lot of times, like, we all get in our own way because we're like, oh, what is, like, if we're, and this is related to the lash industry still, but like if we're starting our own business, or like we want to put something out there, like we're always like, oh, what is like so and so who I went to high school with gonna think about me? Like, that's so embarrassing. Or like, it took me so long to actually like promote my own business, like on my personal social media platforms, because I'm like, oh my god, like what are people gonna think of me? What is like my ex-boyfriend gonna think, and like his sister, and like, oh my god, like that's so embarrassing. But I feel like if we all just like got out of our own way and like weren't scared to put ourselves out there, then like everyone would be so much more successful.
Oh, I totally agree. And I haven't felt that way in a long time. But when you said that, I just remembered when I was first starting out, because I loved education. So I did the whole college thing. Like I have my master's degree and I worked in like very like nice positions in the office world. So I liked having kind of the respectful title that people take you super like seriously. And again, like this is just the norm. I don't believe in it anymore. Like I don't think that's how it should be. But long story short, initially when I was getting into the like beauty industry, I was like, oh my god, what are people gonna think? They're gonna think that I'm stupid, because that's kind of what's out there, you know. And it's
Mhm.
not true at all. It's actually a pretty hard industry to succeed in. But anyway, so that was in my head. I was like, they're gonna think I'm stupid. If somebody asks, like I was single at that point, I'm like, if somebody's dating me, they're gonna like say, what do you do? They're gonna think that I like don't have any real job. I'm just doing lashes. And now when I look back, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe like I was worried about that. But I think just in anything we do, we need, like you said, we need to just not care about what people think. Because even if you are by the book, like the smartest or have the highest position, there's always going to be people and things that have something negative to say about you. So might as well do the things that actually make you happy and you enjoy your life. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that old
Of course.
old me, I guess, of worried about like what people think. So I think once we can fully let go of that, that's when we do thrive.
Hmm.
All right. So my closing question to you: where can people find you? Where do you hang out the most? Or what do you want to share with our listeners as your last word of wisdom?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at Wednesday the Lasher. I do answer all of my DMs. Sometimes takes me a few days, but I always answer every DM. Yeah, and I also have a podcast, the Wicked Biz podcast. I'm also dabbling with TikTok. I'm trying to get better at TikTok. I have had a couple of TikToks do really well, and then they get a whole bunch of comments, and then I get overwhelmed and I'm like, okay, I can't get on here because I have like too many comments I need to reply to. But if you do want to follow me on TikTok, I'm trying to be more active on there. It's at Wednesday the Lasher. I did just relaunch an ebook that I wrote. Okay, and I know everyone has ebooks these days, but I promise you this one has a lot of gems in it. I launched this ebook at the end of 2020, and I just like kind of rewrote it and revamped it and relaunched it a few weeks ago, and it's called Passion for Lashin'. It's basically like the entire journey I took from like building my clientele, building my business, getting to where I am now. It's basically like an exact like roadmap of everything that I personally did. And a lot of people have found success from taking some gems out of it as well. So I just relaunched that. You can find it in the link in my bio on my Instagram. And that is where you can
Love
find me. Thank
that.
you so much for having me on here.
Well, thank you for coming on here. I'm sure so many people are going to learn so much and be so inspired from you and your story. And please, everybody, go check her out on her platforms and check out that ebook. Actually, I'm tempted to buy the ebook to read your journey. It's always,
Thank
I
you.
love sharing stories. But until next time, thank you again. And I hope we can connect again soon.
Of course. Bye.
Bye. And thank you to our listeners. I hope you guys got a lot of good info. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.